My main job responsibility is the conservation of songbirds. So I don't know if you can hear, but if you listen in the distance that way, somebody's telling you to drink your tea. That's an eastern towhee. That bird would not be here if we had not done this management. And that's one of the species that, I don't know if you've heard about the 3 billion bird decline since the 1970s. We've lost almost 3 billion individual birds in North America since then. That species lost about 50 to 60% of its population since the 1970s. And so the fact that it's here, it's still pretty common, but the fact that it's here is a great sign of what we're doing for wildlife. Because what we're doing here is so important for the birds and for other wildlife. So I've been surveying these sites almost every year since 2012 for birds. We did baseline surveys in 2008, so that's the pre. And then if you look at the blue line, that's the total number of bird species from before we did the management to many years after we did the management. And then the red line is the bird species that are declining, how that's increased over time after the management's been done. And one of the species I've been working with, the golden-winged warbler, is the most endangered songbird in the state right now. They are very picky. They need to have a lot of forest around them, but they only nest in habitat like this. We're within 2 miles of half of New Jersey's breeding population. And so these birds evolved with having patches of different forests all within one big forest block. And then that's why Sparta Mountain is the focus of this kind of habitat right now, is to try to save the endangered species. And this site was done in the winter 2014-2015. So in 2015, I started surveying the site, and over the 7 years, I counted 45 different bird species using this site alone. And a number of them were declining species, like the eastern towhee. Different birds will use this at different stages. So this is probably too grown up to be golden warbler nesting habitat, but it's probably getting to the point where the chicks, after they leave the nest, will start using this. And I was saying before that they rely on caterpillars pretty much throughout their whole life cycle. And the species that are here, the oak species especially, support the majority of the caterpillar, butterfly, moth species in the Northeast. And so creating the oaks and creating a diversity of plant species will make sure that there's enough caterpillars for the birds and for everything else, and to ensure that the caterpillars will survive too and not get all eaten. Some species like wood thrush, cerulean warblers that breed in the forest will bring their chicks to this afterwards, so they can get enough food and enough cover to survive their migration down to South America or Central America, or wherever they go.
To Sharon's other point about those other species and even the forest interior birds that come out here, there are tons of papers. We've gone through them all. The literature's there that that's exactly what has to happen. They are bringing, they might be breeding in that forest type, but they're using other portions of the forest. That's really something to really think about. If you look at our state wildlife action plan and you look at all the species that are both threatened and endangered and species of concern, 135 of those species have at least some component in their life cycle as using early successional young forest. That includes some of the ones that are in the deep woods. And it's not just birds. Sharon said this is a little bit of everything. Insects, reptiles, amphibians, mammals. And that's something that you really have to think about for that long term, the biodiversity, and how biodiversity is also key to your climate issues.